Hello, and welcome to an episode of Crossing Borders. Today we have Rick Caruthers with Galaxy Systems.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. So, Rick, you did do a podcast with Lee back in May, but can you do a quick overview of yourself and Galaxy before we get started?
Sure. Galaxy is a privately held access control manufacturer based in the Washington, D.C. area of Maryland, or about 40 miles north in a little town called Walkersville. We have been doing access control since 1985. Privately held company, unique in the fact that we still build our own hardware and software. I've been with the company for 19 years, 19 years just a week ago. So was my anniversary date with the company. Started out as a regional sales manager, worked my way up through the ranks, and became president in 2018. Is when the board appointed me to president. We like where we sit in the market space, and it's a nice little company to be around. We got about 54 employees total, scattered across the globe, and hoping to expand some of that in the next couple years.
Great. So what I want to talk about today with you is being a US-based company, and in the Crossing Borders episodes, we're talking about doing business outside of the US or North America. So I've of course worked with you outside of the US, but if you could talk about how you got into doing business in EMEA and which countries you're doing business in.
We started, oddly enough, we started in 1994 doing business overseas, which was odd that early on. And we did it in a fashion that we started in the Netherlands, Benelux region that they refer to there. So our first customer that we had was an OEM opportunity for a communications company called Naira, and that initially or later became Ascom. And we were private labeling the Galaxy solution. I don't know how they found us. I don't recall the story. I wasn't with Galaxy at the time, but it had something to do with prison systems and the ability to use our system to lock and work within a product they had for prisons. And it grew from there. So that was our first footprint into Europe. We expanded probably in 2 years from there over into the UK with a partnership. And that was pretty much our international presence, aside from some successes in South America, Colombia, Venezuela, and in the Latin American area there. We have some good partners there. And when I became VP of sales, that's when in 2003, that's when I had an opportunity to go to the Intersect show. And it was actually a company that we were buying DVRs. They were private labeling DVRs for us. They had a gentleman who had worked in the Dubai area and decided that they wanted to put a show in, and we were going to go there to support them as our access partner. And that was our first show in 2003 and we've been operating in that region ever since and expanding in that region ever since. But so really we go back to the 90s. So when the Middle East opportunity came up, we weren't quite as apprehensive. Although that was, thinking back, 2003 doesn't seem like that long ago, but you as well as me have experienced the birth of a country basically in that short period of time, how much bigger Dubai is. So it wasn't as open as far as it was welcoming to Westerns, but there wasn't a lot of Western companies operating over there that early on.
Right, and for those that don't know, Intersect is the largest security show in the Middle East, and it's held in January in Dubai in the UAE, where Rick and I usually meet up every year. So tell me some of the challenges you have, because with Galaxy manufacturing your own hardware, of course, there's regulations and restrictions you have to comply with, as
Sure.
well as your own software, in addition to the software being in different languages.
Yeah.
People forget things like instructions and support and help. So what types of challenges do you have outside of the US?
Well, pretty early on, we needed to make our software amenable to those different languages. So we don't have the translating obviously internally. We don't have the ability to do that ourselves. So our development team created a basically a fillable online DLL form that allows us to export that to a partner in any country, and that partner can go in and then fill out this DLL, and then we can export that into the software. It's a very easy process for us, but it was one that we had to develop because you don't think about, like you said, how do you take an English software and convert it over and convert it in a way that makes sense? I recall we did a cut sheet one time and we used a third-party translation company to do in Spanish. And when we sent it over to one of our partners, and he came back and said, Rick, I'm not sure who did your translation, but technical words don't translate. Some people can't translate a technical word the way it's supposed to mean. And basically what it was saying was, what we thought was saying is Galaxy Access Control does this, this, or this. But in the translation, it was saying like Galaxy Access Control loves your grandfather. Because it was just not translated correctly. So what we found, the best thing for us to do is to go with our local partners that understand the system, that understand the technical side of it. We send them the language DLL. They translate it in a way that we can do it. Now, translation is just one thing, Stephanie. As you know, when you get into some of the countries like China, now you're different. You're at a different character set. How do you export that character set in? So there's some back-end tools you've got to do that to support, and the same with Arabic. Arabic now we're going right to left as opposed to left to right. So now you've got to you got to make sure your screens are reformatted to where it's moving in the right direction on the screen. So it did take a little bit of effort to do that, and it is a case-by-case basis for us to overcome that. But we've managed to go through that over the years, and the documentation itself, not as much on the instruction set. And what we find in the Middle East especially, they want the user interface to have an Arabic front end. But when it comes to the technical documents, when it comes to all that, they're mostly okay with it being English-based. So we've not done a lot of the translation. We do make it available in an editable format. If they want to translate it locally, they can. And I think some partners have. It's just not something we push out from the factory.
And what about the hardware? Because,
the hardware, especially in the Middle East. Now, it's not this is not necessarily the case in Europe because you operate there, and Europeans have a certain country brand loyalty in some cases, and they like to support their local economies. They like to support their local manufacturers. So going in with a made in the USA stamp on it doesn't necessarily play as well in Europe as it does in the Middle East. In the Middle East, it was from the very beginning, from day one, it was absolutely something that they wanted. It was a quality reassurance to them. It's like you're bringing in a product that was to them deemed a little higher quality because it had the Made in the USA stamp on it. The other thing that we benefited from is the people who wanted to do business with us knew of our history with the federal government and the fact that we are used a lot across DoD spaces. That brought a certain comfort level to the product as well. But now the exporting, what we have to do with the exporting, the only thing we have to really be concerned about in an exporting world is the ITAR, because we are a DoD contractor. So we have to follow those rules of you can't ship to this country, you can ship to this country. So it moves, and that as policies change, as politics play in, that bar gets moved a little bit. But we watch out for that and have been fairly successful in trying to keep that in check so far.
Yes, it can get complicated. I will say that certain countries in the Middle East really love American made more than others. And you're right, in Europe, they're more likely to stick with the local brand within the country that they're from. But you are doing business in Europe. Are there any, restrictions, regulations? Like in the US, if you're not UL certified with your hardware, you're not going to get spec'd and people aren't going to buy it. Have you?
Well, obviously in the UK or most of Europe, CE plays in very heavily. Now, so that they're not as heavy on the UL sticker as they are the CE certifications. On the manufacturing side, they're wanting to see the ISO qualifications for your board assembly and for your manufacturing process. So that is something that we see more in Europe than we do here in the United States. So that's really the only two. We did have, and there are some very country specific. When we started shipping into Russia, they have this GOST certification that you've got to have for access control. It wasn't a hard process. They want to see your data sheets. They want to see your engineering sheets, and mainly more than anything else, they just want to see your check that you pay them to get your certification. So once you do all that and the money's there, then you're stamped and blessed, and you get to bring your products in. But we do see some of that, and that does change also. Even today, we've had great success over the years in Saudi Arabia. We have an office there, a technical office, and that's where our tech support for the Middle East region resides in Riyadh. But just even recently, new shipping requirements. We had 2 orders in the last month get held up because this new SABER, SABER certification that the dealer has to certify. It's not anything from the exporter, it's from the importer side. But it was just popped up. I mean, we weren't, our equipment wasn't listed as one of the HS codes that fell under SABER, but now all of a sudden it is. And so, so when you get a couple orders hung up, and then the dealers are calling, and we're trying to work with the freight forwarders to get it released, and customs people, then you find, it's just, you didn't fill the right paperwork out from the importer side. So those things are really more troubling, and things that we have to be concerned with more than anything is just the shipping. And then, you've been in a region as well, now, having the issue with Qatar and the rest of the GCC countries. And, we do work in all of those. So we do work in all, and it makes it difficult for us because, now, like, if I have to go do a training or support in Qatar, my guys have to go into their home country of Jordan and then travel into Qatar. They can't go directly from Saudi. So it does create some issues when politics play in and things like that happen. But it is something that you have to just be aware of, and then you've got to just be able to respond quickly when it happens.
So do you have expertise, in-house in Maryland? Do you manage that with your local dealers, with the people? I mean, things.
Our shipping and logistics department has done a fantastic job over the years working directly with our shippers. And I got to tell you, the shippers that we use, we've got a freight forwarder out of Dulles Airport that we use for a lot of the Middle East shipments that don't go like your standard UPS, DHL. But all of those have great resources for that. The Maryland Chamber of Commerce actually has a group within it that promotes Maryland companies working internationally, and they will hold seminars free for Maryland members. So we have, it's called the World Trade Consortium for Maryland. So we have the ability to utilize those resources, and oddly, I mean, these trade shows that we get involved in, they will offset some of my expenses. Being a Maryland-based company, I can send some paperwork over and get some of my show expenses refunded to me from the state of Maryland for doing business internationally. So the state of Maryland really promotes international business, and they put tools behind it. They're newsletters come out, email letters come out every day, making you aware of new changes. They're doing mission trips, trade missions that Maryland is doing. I mean, we had one a few years ago to Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, and Lebanon. And that was all from the state of Maryland, going outside the borders to promote Maryland businesses. So they're very active here, and we've been becoming a closer partner to that program as well.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I was shocked, and to know the resources is here, and very active, extremely active. It's a whole great group, and they're trying to build commonality between all of us Maryland companies that do business externally, for us to get together, and how can we help each other? Are there technology people that can complement each other to go into countries and areas? So we would have done a trip this fall, but we're doing one for Central and South America here in a couple weeks. And I signed up for that, and I've got like 4 1-hour interview times for these different people in different countries to talk about Galaxy, and that's all been put on by the Maryland Chamber. So, if an American company is looking for that, look at your local state level first to see if they have those resources, because they are. If it's like in Maryland, they're looking for the companies to help promote themselves.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So in the region, do you have system integrators? Are you selling through distribution?
We do.
And how did you find your partners?
Well, like I said, we went over first with a manufacturer that did our DVRs, and they were putting an office in at the airport free zone, which was the first free zone in Dubai. And we helped pay for that office and contributed to that, had a demonstration set up. So they had a couple of local people there on the street. Once we got in, we were in the country probably about 1.5 years, and then we landed that's when we landed a big partnership there. And because it was our first and we knew the size and scale of this company, we tied them up, or they asked, and we agreed to a 3-year exclusive relationship. And they not only had, offices throughout all of UAE in the various Emirate states for their integration firm, but they also acted kind of like a quasi-distributor, so to speak. So they were selling the products in other GCC areas, but it wasn't a distributor like it is in the US or the international or the European model. When you bought a product from these guys, it also included their labor and their engineers. So that gave us a good high confidence level that the product was being installed correctly, being supported. At the end of the 3 years, we decided, and mutually, that their company had kind of fallen on some times, and they had some internal issues. So we mutually decided that they would just stay on as an integrator, but we would drop the distributor designation. But because they had so much market presence in other GCC countries, all of their partners that they were selling to over the years just gravitated back to us. So that kind of had our channel built, but it is 100% dealer based. Not saying we wouldn't, explore a distribution relationship in Europe and in the Middle East, as long as we feel like we can maintain control of the training and who's buying the product. There's obvious advantages, especially in the GCC region, for having a distributor. And the biggest advantage, Stephanie, I think, is the fact that these distributors will give people just a lot of credit.
Exactly.
And that's something that we don't operate. We've only got about a handful of our long-term partners over there that we extend credit to, but pretty much everybody else is just, wire transfer and then you get your stuff.
Yeah.
So I see the distribution model, companies like Annixter and ADI and others that are opening up that are offering that credit facility being, and we had a brief relationship with Annixter there in Dubai for that reason. And it was our goal. It wasn't our goal to take our core, like I said, the guys that we're giving the credit to. We consider those like our agent level. We got two levels of pricing in that region. So it wasn't really like moving our agent people to deal with them, but it was more of those lower level dealers that don't do a lot of volume that are still considered Galaxy partners. It gave them a local resource with credit to help them sell more product and a stocking source to be able to go down the street and pick up a controller instead of waiting for us to get a controller over to you. So we do have a fulfillment center set up in Dubai. We have another fulfillment center set up in Riyadh. So we've changed that model over the years to get the product into the hands of the people that need it faster.
Yeah, it does take figuring out the best way to work, because having people on the ground representing your company, because definitely in the Middle East, it's who you know and knowing the right people and connections.
Yeah, and we have a sales office in Dubai, and then our technical office is out of Saudi. And people question, why aren't your salespeople and your technical people all in the same spot? Well, you and I know people with a Saudi work visa can move easier through the GCC region than people with a UAE or another GCC country, because sometimes political things happen. But if you got a Saudi work visa, you can move a little freer, and that's the reason. That was our reasoning for having it there. as opposed to having it setting in Dubai. And it's also, I mean, the engineers, what we're paying in Saudi, we're paying a very great rate for those guys. We're paying well beyond a competitive, but we can afford to. Saudi is a little bit cheaper than Dubai.
Right.
So you can definitely take care of your people a little more. The one engineer I think has been with us 6 years now over there, so he's our first that we hired. But you're right, it's a relationship region more than anywhere else in the world, and that's one of the things that I would you learn a lot over the years. But one thing I think that Western companies need to realize. You're not just going to go in and find a local guy and hire a local guy and say, okay, now, bring me millions of dollars. If you as an American executive aren't willing to go over there, because the people there, they want to have a relationship with C-level people in the States.
Absolutely.
And, they want to feel like that they're an integral part of your business. They want to feel like that they're important to you. And, if you're not willing to do that, then you're only going to see so much success. You've got to be willing to go over there and become. And I've developed since 2003. I've developed some absolute fantastic, not just business relationships, but genuine friendships with a lot of people there. And we know each other's families. If they're in the United States, they visit. If I'm over there, I'm at their houses for dinner. So it's that type of, and that's what you've got to do, I think, to really be successful in that part of the world.
I completely agree. It's all, when you go to Dubai, it's a melting pot of all of the Middle East and parts of the world all working there together. And treating people with respect and having mutual respect for each other is what makes you successful in that region.
We had a situation once, and it was from an end user request. We were our big distributor over there, our big partner in Dubai, was on the verge of winning this major project. And this was probably 2005, when they were really just construction was booming. I got a call on a Saturday that said, "Rick, we need you in Dubai on Monday." And the sheikh of this construction company who's got this major, it was one, if you recall, they were building these, entertainment city, this city, that city. So it was one of those city projects, that they had. And before they would write the order, he said, I want to see someone from the United States, from Galaxy, to basically come in, and I want to meet him. And they said, we're going to pay your flights. We're going to pay everything. When can you get here? I said, well, you said I had to be there Monday, so I guess I need to leave tonight. And I mean, they called me that morning. I was at JFK at 11 o'clock that night on a flight, arrived Sunday evening, got into their offices that Monday morning, no more than a 45-minute meeting with this user. And I was back on a flight at 2 a.m. Tuesday morning, heading back to the U.S.
With the order.
But the deal was sold. The deal was done. At that point, it's over. He wanted to see someone there. He wanted somebody from this company to tell him, we're standing behind them. We're standing behind you. And this project is going to be fine. And that's what it took. And from there, this guy, if I go to the show, and I'll be there in January, if this guy's in their show floor, regardless if we're doing business now or not, he comes by the stand. So that's what we've, and you know how it is. That's the, I continue to go to the show. I will continue to go to the show. As long as it's safe to go, which in all indications it will be, and I will go for that reason, because I really feel obligated to be there for our partners.
And it's a fantastic show. It's one of the best.
One of my favorite cities in the world. I've rented a car since day one in Dubai. My guy who lives in Saudi, we have this little argument, because when we go there, he'll want to drive, and I'll tell him I'm driving. I know my way around Dubai better than he does, and he's been there his whole life, and it drives him crazy, because he can't be wrong when it comes to that. But it's fun, and
it's a safe city. It's safe. People don't realize how safe it is.
Absolutely. The whole region. I mean, in Qatar and Oman and Kuwait, Saudi, anywhere I've been over there, I mean, we did a trade show in 2007 in Tripoli. One of my engineers and I went to Tripoli, Libya, and did their first security expo. And it was through a partner that we had gained from that distributor. And it was a fantastic experience. This was before everything, fell apart over there. But it was interesting, being in there. And again, it was just our willingness to go just further cemented that this guy could take us. You went into that security show and there was not another, you see American brands, but they were represented locally.
Mm-hmm.
There was not, so our partner was taking us to the government people, taking us to the leaders of big companies, saying, this is my American partner that makes access control, and they're here to support me. Again, just elevating. And to them, that even gave him a bit of, that gave him a bit of a boost, because his customers looked at him like, wow, if he could get, the vice president of this American company to come to Tripoli for a show, there's a relationship there. So it's beneficial for all. It really is.
Yeah. Any other words of wisdom or any other thing you can think of that would be educational for people in the U.S. that would want to be interested in doing business in the Middle East? Because I know that's where you do most of your business outside.
Yeah, the thing that I would look at is know where you're going, know your region, know the customs. Do a little brush up on what to expect in a business setting in various countries.
Mm-hmm.
It to me, it's respectful if you're going in there with some sort of local knowledge of how they like to be greeted and what, it's not always the way it is here. So you've got to open yourself up a bit to learning the different cultures and working within that. That's first thing. Number two, when asked what your politics are, just say, don't get involved. And you're gonna have, I always just make light of it. And I say, listen, I'm one guy, one vote. I can't stop or change anything, and this, just get it off there, because, and I found that they don't really, they're more intrigued about our politics, not wanting to argue with you. But you do get in those situations where, there's policies and there's things going on behind the scenes between governments that could cause some tension. And it's best to just, what I've learned, and it's just, one of my first trips over, we were in this big training, and I'm seeing across this table of all these people in this company, like you said, it's a melting pot. So, the one managing director is, I said, as Americans, we don't think that it meshes as much as it does there.
Right.
But when you get in that room, he's like, yeah, he's Sunni, he's Shia, he's from the Philippines, he's Lebanese, Christian Lebanese, he's and they're all working there as friends.
Exactly.
And I think that's one thing I would recommend as an Americans that have this, I had as well as anybody, this perception in your mind of the way the world is over there. Mm-hmm. It's not that way. These are people just like you, trying to make a living, trying to raise their family, trying to do best that they can. And they're no different than the graders that we have here today. They're no different. They do eat dinner at 10 o'clock at night that you got to be ready for. And I would also advise anybody going over, don't get, they will serve you more Turkish coffee than your body should be allowed to drink. And I learned that the first time because I didn't know what was keeping me awake at all hours of the night. And then I found out these Turkish coffees are like espresso times 10. And once I got to where I only did one of those a day, I could sleep. But it's just, but you know how gracious they are.
Exactly.
One coffee becomes 10 coffees. One, oh, you want a pastry? Bring Mr. Rick an entire tray of pastries. So they are the most gracious host, and it's a great place to do business. I enjoyed the time that we have there, but the other advice is you're competing with the world when you're there. So we found out pretty early on, don't expect that you're going to walk in there with a U.S. price list and sell your products like you sell in the U.S. I mean, if you're not willing to do some market analysis and determine where you can be, and we have different price lists for all different regions of the world. So that, I think you got to do that too. You got to do some market research. You got to find, you are competing on an international scale when you're overseas. So you can't really just come in there saying, this is this is the price that I'm going to give you. You got to be a little flexible, and you got to work with them. And if you're able to do that and they feel like that you're treating them right, you're going to be successful there.
I completely agree. You need to go over with an open mind when
Sure.
you go to outside of the US and listen and pay attention, definitely. And like you said, you need to do your research before you go so you don't stumble over yourself in doing something that's inappropriate, especially me as a woman going and into that region. But I've always done my homework and I've always been welcomed. And like you, I have a network of people and it's fantastic to do business there. I thoroughly
Absolutely.
enjoy it.
Oh no, I mean, I look forward to the Intersect show every year. And we're going to do more in the upcoming years. We've expanded more out into Western Europe, or Eastern Europe. I'm sorry. We've expanded into Ukraine. We've expanded into Poland. We've got a lot more partners out there. So we're starting to see more activity in that part of the country, in that part of the continent. And it's a little, there's not a lot of American companies out there operating right now. And so we've got some good things going on over there with some NATO projects and with our partners there. So we are going to expand, as we can, not nearly to the scale some. I mean, our expansion is usually very calculated, and then we look for the right partnerships. We don't just go start. I'm not one for just hiring people and turning them loose on the ground. I mean, I feel like we've got to build the relationship to get to where we need to be there. So we have a lot of that. We have a lot of that going on. And has this slowed us down? Has COVID slowed us down? Absolutely, especially projects wise. I mean, the projects in the Middle East are just now starting to come back up, and I'm talking the major projects. So hopefully we're going to see by spring a big rebound in things that we know are backlogged over there. And we're hoping that Intersect will kind of be the kickoff for that. We're kind of banking on that. And if companies are interested, there's plenty of spots open at Intersect right now. The rates are pretty good. They're worried about what this is going to be and what it's going to look like. So that's the reason we decided to get a bigger stand this year, and as opposed to partnering with someone like we've done in the past. It's just the rates were just we weren't able to pass those rates up.
Great. Well, Rick, thank you so much and good luck and stay safe.
All right, take care.